Today, we're talking about dependency. We're talking about dependency. And as I was thinking about this topic in this conversation, I think about the things that we depend on in our lives today. Many of us are crushed because TikTok is now banned. And you tried to open up that because you thought you were still going to be able to use it. And you opened that thing up and you was like, oh, they for real, for real. I didn't know it was going to be for real, for real. What we going to do? And I don't know if y'all heard of the app Red Note. Red Note is supposed to be like the app that everybody's moving to. And I had Jenny, because Jenny speaks Chinese. And so I had her speaking Chinese on this app, and everybody's loving her, by the way. They are loving her. Oh, man. But anyway, so there are these things that we depend on. I don't really depend on TikTok, but coffee is one of my things. Where my coffee folk at? You're like, I can't even function. I need coffee to order my coffee. I showed up to Starbucks, and they were like, what do you want? I was like, I can't even remember, to be honest. What y'all sell? They were like, this is Starbucks, coffee. I was like, can you just order for me? And then I'll know what I want. But we like coffee. That's my thing. That's the thing that I tend to depend on. And I've been guilty of saying this thing, like, I just need coffee and Jesus, and I'm good. Like, just I got a sign in my house that says coffee and Jesus right next to my coffee machine. And I'm convicted about that, y'all. I'm convicted about that because at the end of the day, I don't need coffee and Jesus. I don't need Jesus and anything else. I just need Jesus. But there's sort of a mental transition and transformation that has to take place in order for me to truly understand that and how to live that out, how to walk that out. That's what I want to talk about today. There's been this ongoing battle in the coffee landscape between Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks, and it goes back years. Now, Dunkin' Donuts have traditionally been known for their donuts. Like back in the day, Dunkin' Donuts was a donut place. That's where you get your donuts. You weren't really thinking, they said they were stale. I didn't say that, Dunkin', I didn't say that. But that's where you would get your donuts. But when Starbucks came onto the scene, they completely disrupted the market. And Starbucks people are bougie. Y'all think y'all something. But Starbucks is not just a coffee brand. Starbucks is a lifestyle brand. So what Starbucks said is, we're not just going to sell coffee. We're going to sell you on a lifestyle. So the branding, the colors, the cups, and the things that they have, they put the things in. It looks a certain way, and it makes you feel a certain way when you're drinking it. Some of y'all walk around with your Starbucks cup, and y'all just think, y'all, pinky's out, and I don't know. You just thought you spent $4, and you're the wisest person in the world. But coffee, the coffee at Starbucks isn't all that great. I mean, let's just keep it real. It's not all that great. But the reality is, we don't care about how the coffee tastes because Starbucks isn't selling you coffee. They're selling you a lifestyle. In fact, the whole reason why they set up their cafes and their shops the way they do is because when they came out into the market, what they said was, we want to create a third place between home and work. And what they said is, it'd be great if we could even remove the work part out of it and create an environment where they feel comfortable working. How many of you ever worked at a Starbucks? You're drinking the Kool-Aid. And so they're selling you on a lifestyle. They're saying that we want to disrupt the industry, and we want to make people believe that when you drink our coffee, you live a certain lifestyle. You live a certain way. And so we want to set ourselves in the market so that you would depend on us for this lifestyle that we're trying to sell you on. Well, Dunkin', they got tired of Starbucks. And so about in 2006, they started a series of campaign shifts where they started to rebrand. And they came out with this slogan, and the slogan is, America runs on Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. They said, okay, Starbucks, we see what you're doing in the market. So what they did was they dropped donuts off of the Dunkin'. So it's no longer called Dunkin' Donuts. It's just called Dunkin'. Yes. Pay attention. Pay attention. They're all over there. The sign on the building says Dunkin'. The cup says Dunkin'. They completely rebrand, And they set up this slogan, America runs on Dunkin'. Here's what they wanted to do. They wanted to position themselves as a lifestyle brand, but they wanted to do it in a way where they're a lifestyle brand that you depend on for fuel. Like they wanted to try to convince Americans that you cannot run in this life without Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. And to be quite frankly with you, if you're a coffee connoisseur, and what I mean by that is like you actually know something about the coffee beans. Okay, coffee originated in Ethiopia, and there's beans that actually have different flavors and different notes that don't need all the sugar and all the milk and stuff that y'all are used to. But the actual bean itself, if you know anything about that, if you've actually tasted Dunkin's regular coffee against Starbucks, Dunkin' has the better coffee. Security, I don't even know who this man is. I don't even know who this man is. He drink the Kool-Aid. That's what I'm talking about. They trying to sell you on a lifestyle. I'm talking about the bean itself. The bean itself has better coffee. Now, I'm not going to hold you. That's this conversation. How about that? but I'm not going to hold you. That they have the better coffee, but here's the thing: they don't have the better brand. And they don't sell you and they don't position themselves in a better way over Starbucks, and this is by design. But what they're trying to do is set themselves up to a place of dependency where you need them. But here's what Starbucks doesn't even have a slogan. Their slogan is like 3 paragraphs long. It's like, we are here to enrich the lives of all the people. We want to make sure that everybody has the chance at a quality life. We're inclusive, and we just, and you read that thing, it's like 10 pages long. And they're trying to sell you on this lifestyle, this dependency. And here's the thing, everything in the market is trying to say the same thing. You depend on us. You need me. You need my brand. You need me. Here's the thing. America may run on Dunkin'. You may run on Starbucks. But our souls were designed to run on God. And the reality is there are some things that in an attempt to fill a void that only God is supposed to fill, we've been trying to fill it with these other dependencies. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the difference between a healthy dependency and an unhealthy dependency. Because here's the thing. Jesus, I love Jesus, y'all. Jesus in Matthew, Jesus goes on this 40-day fast. And he's towards the end of this fast, and the enemy is now coming and trying to tempt him. And as the enemy is trying to tempt him, it's like at his lowest moment, he knows he's vulnerable. He knows that he wants something, that he has a need of something. And he tries to tempt him with the thing that he's in need of. But it's a counterfeit version of it. And I want us to read this together in Matthew chapter 4. It says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted there by the devil. For 40 days and 40 nights, he fasted, and he became" what? Very hungry. I'm going to stop here because we gloss over the humanity of Jesus. But Jesus was fully human and fully God at the same time. And so this very hungry was the type of hungry that, ladies, where you at? You skipped breakfast. You forgot lunch. And it's like 4 o'clock. At this point, everybody moved because everybody's getting blown up. I just don't even understand. Jenny be skipping breakfast, and I'd be like, why? Because she's evil. No, I'm not. I'm playing. She's not. You know, when women are hungry, they're hungry. But it was that type of hunger. It was that type of hunger. It said he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. Some of y'all can't even skip lunch, let alone 40 days and 40 nights. He was very, very hungry, and it was during that time. Everyone say, during that time. Here's the reality. When you are vulnerable, when you're in your most vulnerable state, you should expect the enemy to show up. Some of us have to stop being surprised that the enemy has positioned himself right at the moment of my vulnerability. You just lost a loved one. You just are at a point where you're broken. Something happened. Something shifted. And how is it that this thing is now dangling in my face? Because the enemy knew that you would be in a vulnerable state. But here's what Jesus did. It says, this is what the devil said. He said, the devil came and said to him, if you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. But Jesus told him no. Everyone say no. Do you realize that you have the power to tell the devil no? It's just very simple. Hey, no. I think we overcomplicate the things that happen when we're vulnerable and we're tempted. It's very simple. Just say no. Remember that campaign, Just Say No? We need to bring that back. No, it says the scriptures say people do not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. What Jesus was doing in this moment is he was trying to teach us that the way that we stay free, even though we're tempted, is by an act of dependency. Believing and trusting in the very words of God despite what the temptation that is dangling in front of us promises to us. And there are two types of dependency, but what I want to tell you is freedom is not the absence of dependency. It is choosing the right kind of dependency. We're convinced that freedom just means that, I don't depend on anything, I don't depend on anyone. That's not what freedom is. Freedom is making a choice to choose the right kind of dependencies. And there are healthy dependencies and there are unhealthy dependencies. Can we unpack both? Are you glad you came to church today? All right, so here's the first one. An unhealthy dependency is this. It is a counterfeit solution that keeps you trapped in the very problem it pretends to solve. An unhealthy dependency is a counterfeit solution that keeps you trapped in the problem it pretends to solve. There are habits in our lives, that substance abuse, those relationships. There are these relationships. You're lonely. You think you're lonely in life, and the thing you really need is to be content with God. Let me just say that. But you're experiencing what feels like loneliness. And here comes that dude, here comes that girl, here comes those people in the DMs that you know that they're not good for you. But because you have some sort of deficiency, because you think you're lonely, you begin to entertain these people. You begin to entertain these conversations. And you begin to depend on them to fill a void that you know should only be filled by God. But they're giving you a temporary form of comfort that feels good for the moment. And that's what happens with these substances. That's what happens with relationships. They give us a false sense of comfort and security for a moment. And even though we know they're not good for us, we depend on them because the feeling of discomfort, of being lonely, so we think, outweighs the sort of pattern and cycle that these things keep us trapped in. And I want to tell you today that God has more for us. He's got better for us. Here's what a healthy dependency looks like. It's a reliance that empowers you to overcome because it connects you to the source of true freedom. Any dependency that does not connect you to the source of freedom, and the only source of freedom is Jesus Christ himself. Any dependency that doesn't connect you to him is an unhealthy dependency. It is an unhealthy dependency. And so I got an example that I want to share with you all today. I'm gonna need some help from a few good men. I've got a ladder and I've got some crutches. I've got a ladder and I've got some crutches. And both of these represent a certain type of dependency. And here's my ladder, here's my crutches. Let's go. This is a dependency, and these are a dependency. Here's the thing about the ladder. The ladder is the type of dependency. I need to, if you could just stand right there for me, brother. A ladder is the type of dependency that provides a means for you to climb higher so that you can get something done. So let's say there's a light bulb that needs to be changed. Are y'all scared right now? I'm perfectly okay. Y'all got your phones out like we're not going viral today, all right? I'm good. I chose this ladder intentionally. But here's the thing. A healthy dependency provides for you a foundation and allows you to climb higher, to go further, to actually solve the thing that needs to be solved. And so this ladder, if there's a light that has gone out, and I can't reach the light, and I need to fix the light so that I can have light in the room, I get a ladder, it'll help me climb higher so that I can actually solve the problem that needs to be solved. This is what a healthy dependency like. It's the thing that helps us climb higher, go further, and ultimately it points us to the true source of freedom, which is Jesus. That's a healthy dependency. But then there are these crutches. This is another type of dependency. But the thing about crutches, your leg is broke. For fake, but for real. All right? That one. All right, so go ahead and walk. Even though that leg is broke, this kind of dependency can help him move around. What this kind of dependency represents is a workaround. You can walk, you can move, you can do the things you need to do, but it doesn't solve the actual issue that he has, which is the broken leg. And so many of us have these dependencies on our lives, and we think that they're solving a problem, but really, they're just a workaround to your brokenness. And until you realize that the kind of dependency that the Lord wants to use is the kind of dependency that's going to help you climb higher, go further, and actually solve the issue that you're dealing with, you're going to stay stuck on a dependency that the longer you use it, the more you need it. He might not like crutches at first, but the longer he uses them, the more he will feel like he needs them. If we're not I want you to try to climb this ladder. Go ahead. What's wrong? Okay. Hold. You can't climb a ladder with a broken foot. And you can't climb a ladder with a workaround. It's only that you get rid of the crutches and you allow God to address the brokenness that's in your life, that he'll actually allow you the strength to climb on the ladder and actually do the thing that he's calling you to do. But many of us, we can't let go of the dependencies that give us a false sense of mobility. These crutches, they'll help you move around, but it's limited. You'll have limited mobility. Give Troy a hand. That's my guy. They'll give you a limited ability to move around. But you'll never be able to climb higher. You'll never be able to go further. You'll never be able to solve the thing. What they'll actually do is they'll keep you trapped and in bondage to them. And there are many people who are on crutches, and they're fearful because it's through physical therapy that they need to strengthen that leg once it's been addressed. And many people struggle because they've been relying on the crutches for so long that physical therapy hurts. But here's the reality. Healthy dependency, sometimes it hurts. Healthy dependencies that point you to the true source of your freedom, sometimes they hurt. And this is the picture that I want to paint for you, because in Matthew chapter 4, Jesus is showing us that in order for us to overcome the temptation that the enemy has brought to us, we're going to not have to depend on our own willpower to overcome it. We're going to have to depend on the very words that come from the mouth of God. Some of y'all talk too much and your words have no power. But the thing that you need to overcome the temptation that's in front of you is not a bunch of words that come from your own mouth, but it's a steady stream of words that comes from the mouth of God. Here's why this is important. If you flip right over to Matthew chapter 5, this is what happens. After Jesus comes out of that moment of temptation, he goes on like this healing spree. He starts healing the multitudes, crowds are gathering, and what happens is, after he's healing all these people, Jesus goes and he preaches his first sermon. And this inaugural message, we call it the Sermon on the Mount. in Matthew chapter 5, I want you to notice the first thing that he tells his followers. It says, one day, as he saw the crowds gathering, Jesus went up to the mountainside and he sat down. His disciples gathered around him and he began to teach them. And this is what he said. This is the first message that Jesus preached. He said, God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Now you have to understand, culturally, it was very much a hierarchical society. I mean, there were people who were more affluent. There were people who were shepherds. There were people who were low-class citizens. And so this kind of structure would rub people the wrong way when you look at a bunch of people who were of different backgrounds, different social and economic statuses, and you go, God blesses those who are poor. And many of you are looking like, well, who finna be poor? Jesus, what you talking about? The same way you feel that way is the same way that the people are looking at him like, what do you mean poor? But he's not talking about financial poverty. What Jesus is talking about is spiritually poor. He's saying, blessed are those who actually know they're broken and who admit their need for God. Let me tell you something today. If you're not ready to get to a place to admit your need for God, you're going to be depending on some things that are anti-God. And those things are going to make it difficult for you to accept God as he is. But the reality is, many of us, we're at the crossroads of choosing between crutches and a ladder. And why would you settle for crutches when he's offering you a ladder? He actually wants you to climb higher. He actually wants you to go further in life. But the way for you to do that, I'm talking about freedom, the way for you to stay on freedom's path is for you to have a healthy dependence on God. He says God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for who? Him. He says the kingdom of heaven is theirs. So when I realize that I'm broken and I actually need the Lord, I need him. When you stop leaning on your own understanding and you start actually trusting and leaning and depending on Jesus, that's where you find your strength. That's where he begins to heal. That's where he begins in the brokenness that's in your heart. That's where he begins to do the thing that you felt like it was impossible to be done. But we settle. I was thinking about this message in our journey as a church, 2 years, 2 years old. But we've been at this journey for a long time, y'all, a long time. And all roads have kind of led to this moment. But all these stories were flashing through my head as I was praying and preparing the message. And I was thinking about how as we were launching the church in 2022, we're preparing to launch the church. And we had just had a baby. And my daughter, who was also now 2 years old, she entered into this world on July of 2022. And the miracle that she is, sometimes when you're standing in a miracle, it's easy for you to forget the journey that led to the moment. But it was 7 years of infertility, of praying, of asking, believing God. God, when are you going to come through? God, when? Why? Negative pregnancy test after negative result. It was, I can't even tell you the emotional drainage that happened during that season. And I wish I could tell you that I had all healthy dependencies in that season, but I didn't. There were moments where we would get another negative pregnancy test to pile on the other ones that we had stored up. And I thought to myself, as I would see my wife crying in the bathroom, I would say, God, you know what? Maybe I deserve this. But I know a lot of Christians, and she ain't like those other Christians. She don't deserve this. Why would you allow this to happen to her? To me. I know I'm not perfect, but I ain't like everybody now. And I wish I could tell you that There were moments where I stayed up all night praying and fasting and speaking in tongues and seeking the Lord. Nah, there were nights where I drank myself to sleep because I'm trying to figure out, what is life? Year one, I'm full of faith. God, I know you're going to do it. God, I know you're able. God, if you would just come, I know. Year two, God, I know you're able. I know there was another negative, but God, I know you're faithful. I know you're going to come through. Year three, God, I'm standing on your word. God, I'm trusting your promises. Year four, God, I know that you're going to come through. I think year five, yo, for real? Year six, all right. This is, like, what are we doing here? And in those moments, the thing that the enemy wants to do is he wants to tempt you. Who are you going to depend on? Who's holding you up? You can either receive the latter or you can take those crutches. And then year seven, here comes this blessing. Gia, that's what we call her. 6 months later, we're about to launch the church, and Jenny drops Gia off at daycare. Jenny heads to work, smack, gets into a car accident, loses sight in her left eye. We've got 30 days until launch. And I'm going, this is what obedience looks like? Like, this is what trusting you feels like? God, I don't really know about this. And in that moment, I was tempted with the same unhealthy dependencies, the same things that, it's like the thing that the enemy wants to dangle in front of your face. But Jenny and I made a decision that we were just going to trust God. We were just going to depend on him. I don't share that to say, oh, I'm better than anybody, or not. This is not about that. But this is just understanding that we would not be in the room today except for us depending and leaning on God. So I'm saying, God, okay, we press on. And then here it comes. Is Jesus calling me right? Who? Lord, if you're listening. Tell him what you want. Countdown to launch Sunday. We launch, over 400 people show up. And then y'all kept coming back Sunday after Sunday. But what I didn't tell you is that year, that first year of us pastoring, was the most difficult, draining season of our lives. Preaching, teaching, trying to manage and juggle, building a team. Shout out to all the E-team who've been here since launch. Where you at? Let's go. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for them showing up and seeing their smiles, I'm telling you, it was hard. We would set up, we would tear down. Sometimes it would just be me. I'm putting up pipe and drape, and it's just all this. And then we would leave here drained, 5 o'clock in the morning, had to wake up on Monday to take Jenny to an eye doctor appointment. There were so many surgeries and so many appointments. We had to see the eye doctor twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. And there was medical bills out the wazoo. We're in debt, spending all this money. And I'm going, God, but I know I heard you. So we're going to trust you. We went to a conference and we bought 5 tickets. We bought 5 tickets because we said, next time we come to this conference, we're going to have 5 leaders to bring to this conference. Me and Jenny she was like, but you going to buy 5? You couldn't buy 2? 5. And I'm telling you, we got close to the conference and I was like, But it was literally 4 months before the conference happened, the Lord started sending people. And then in walks Troy and Chantel, and in walks different people and Krista and different people who are now a part of our team. And I'm sharing that with you to say, like, when you put your trust in the Lord, he will never put you to shame. The enemy wants you to make you believe that when you trust in God, you're going to be out here naked and afraid, looking crazy. That ain't how this works at all. When you put your trust in Jesus, there's only one person who gets put to shame, and that's the enemy himself, because those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like an eagle. They shall walk and never faint. When you put your faith and trust in Jesus, you will never be put to shame. But here's the reality. Sometimes you're going to have faith for the waiting period. The distance between what you see and what the promise looked like. And how we wait is how we worship. Spin it back, right? So how do we do this? How do we live out this message? There are 3 ways we can cultivate a healthy dependency on the Lord. Here's the first way. We have to seek God daily. Seek God daily. Dependency on God starts with consistency in your connection with him. Dependency on God begins with the consistency of your connection with him. You have to seek God daily. Don't just come to church and think that was it. That was all you needed for the week. That ain't all you need for the week. You're going to go out in that parking lot and somebody going to make you mad. You're going to walk in the lobby and you're like, what they looking at? I mean, I know we all happy and everything, but they kind of staring. And you wouldn't fathom skipping meals. But how many times do we skip devotional intimacy with the Lord? And Jesus, when he taught us to pray, this is the way he taught us to pray. Right in the next chapter, Matthew chapter 6, verse 9, he says, pray like this. Our Father in heaven, may your name be kept holy. May your kingdom come soon. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today the food that we need. Some of your food has expired. For real and spiritually. Clean out your fridge. I'm just telling you. That fruit you bought last year is not going to work. Give us today the food that we need. I cannot believe that me preaching today is enough food for me today. Even though I'm preaching the word of God, when I wake up in the morning, I can't just preach myself into daily bread. I've got to actually wake up in the morning and spend time with the God that I'm preaching about. You've got to make it your mission to prioritize him, to say, God, today I need you. I'm going to encounter some folk that I really want to cut, and I'm just being honest, God. But in order for me to know that I'm not going to lose my mind is I need a steady stream of words that come from your mouth, and I need you. I cannot live, I cannot move, I cannot make it without you. And you were created with that soul longing that can only be quenched by the Lord. Here's the second thing. Let him lead. Seek God daily, but then you got to let him lead. We're very strong-willed, a lot of entrepreneurs in the room, a lot of CEOs and business owners and just strong-willed people. I be hearing y'all. Y'all really strong, passionate. But you got to let God lead. You can't 7 steps to financial freedom your way into dependency on the Lord. Proverbs 3 and 5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he'll show you which path to take. But then when he shows you, you got to follow him. You're praying and asking God to show you. Showing is one part. What happens when he shows you, and because you don't believe him, because you won't submit to his authority, you still praying. God showed you 2 years ago. It's taking you 2 years to realize that you're not in control of your life, and it's time for you to submit to him and follow his lead. Seek him daily. Let him lead. Here's a third way that we can create this healthy dependency on the Lord. Everyone say, starve your flesh. I know for some of you, that's like old school who grew up in church. Yeah, I know all about starving your flesh. But for others of you who didn't grow up in church, you may be thinking, what are these people talking about? Starve your flesh. These people are crazy. Starving your flesh means saying no to the things that drain your soul. Say no to the things that are draining your soul. Those things that set themselves up right in front of you to tempt you to drain your soul, your mind, your will, your emotions. Say no to those things. But it doesn't just stop there. It's also saying yes to the things that fuel your faith. America may run on Duncan, but we were created to run on God. One of the biblical ways that we starve our flesh is through fasting. Everyone say fasting. Fasting is a way that we demonstrate dependence on the Lord and that our faith is in God alone. Now, biblical fasting is from food. Biblical fasting throughout the scripture is from food. And we're going on a 21-day fast. And guess what, y'all? It starts tomorrow. There you go. So I'm inviting all of you to join us in this journey of starving the flesh and feeding your spirit. And I pray that you would fast from food. That's a biblical model for fasting. But if you're not there yet, I definitely want you to consult your doctors if you have pre-existing conditions. Talk to your doctor. But for those who are not there yet, there are other ways to abstain from the things that are draining your soul. And there's a lot of debate about, oh, that's not a biblical fast. That may be true, but that might be a starting point for you to get you to a place to where you can go on a biblical fast. So maybe you need to get off of social media for 21 days. Maybe you need to turn off the TV. Stop talking to some people. Go on a fast from the things that drain your soul. And I pray that one day you'll partner with us in going on some of these fasts from actual food, and partner the two together would be a great fast. But seek him daily, let him lead, and starve your flesh. We're going to go into a time of reflection.